Number 5, The Little Mermaid. This was such a nice breath of fresh air after watching the Bronze Era. There's so much I want to get into with this movie. So first off, I think the underwater world of this movie is great because it leads to a lot of great visuals and world building. I also love the songs in here because Under the Sea and Part of the World are some of my personal favorite Disney songs. And also, I really love a lot of characters in here, with King Triton and Ariel being some of my favorite well-written Disney characters. And also, I love the villain in here because Ursula just has a great voice, great animation on her, and it's pretty fun to watch due to how delightfully evil she is. And I also like how this movie makes comic reliefs important. Like, if you take Sebastian and Scuttle out of the movie, you're gonna miss huge chunks of the movie. And also, the only character I don't like in here is Flounder. Because his only purpose is to react to stuff and go, wow, to everything he sees, and I just don't really like him for that. And, well, I take that back. There's another character in here I don't like. Prince Eric. Because he just seems bland. He just seems like a nice prince who just wants someone to marry. He doesn't have a personality aside from that. But as a movie, The Little Mermaid is great. It has great animation, great characters, and great world building, and a great villain. So yeah, The Little Mermaid is a great movie that I would highly recommend you watch. And it is a movie that was worthy of saving Disney and putting them in this era. Number 4, Aladdin. This is another great movie from another great era. So, honestly, I find this movie one of the funniest Disney movies out there, with me laughing at a lot of the jokes. So before we get to him, I want to talk about the other characters in this movie. So first off, I think Aladdin is a really interesting and likable protagonist. And I also think Jasmine is one of the first strong Disney female princesses. And I really like that about her. And I think Jafar and Iago are great villains. I mean, they are such a great team, and they're really fun to watch with how overly evil they are. So now let's get to him. Robin Williams as the genie in this movie is phenomenal. I mean, his voice puts so much sincerity, humor, and heart to the character, and he's honestly one of the best animated characters of all time. I will say that. Rest in peace, Robin Williams. And also, here's the problem with some of the jokes, though. They feel outdated. Like, I don't know what half of Genie's jokes are supposed to be with his celebrity impressions. They just make me confused. So at the beginning of the movie, there's this merchant who makes, like, these jokes that are references to 90s commercials when he's selling his stuff. And I also don't get that. But the most major flaw in this movie is the whole diamond in the rough thing for the Cave of Wonders. Like, I don't get why Aladdin is the only person who can go inside the Cave of Wonders. Like, when there's so many unique and interesting characters out there in the real world, why is he the only character that goes in? This movie can be about anyone else except for Aladdin. Have you ever thought of that? So yeah. But overall, this movie is a movie with some great jokes, characters, animation, and one of the best performances of all time. It only is down here because of a weird story cliche and outdated jokes. It's another great movie that I would recommend. Number 3, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. This is one of Disney Animation's best movies. I love how dark and themes this movie is, because it allows Disney to touch on much more important topics, like lust, torture, religion, and those topics are pretty important to today's world, and I like that Disney can touch on them by going dark. And there's also a lot of other great things about this movie. First off, I think the characters in this movie are really good. First off, I think Quasimodo is a very interesting and likable protagonist who is probably one of Disney's best protagonists. And I also really like Esmeralda because of how three-dimensional she is. And it's honestly one of Disney's best female characters. And I also love Frollo. He is probably one of my favorite Disney villains, like top 3 material. Because, like, you see his motivation, but you disagree with him entirely. And I love how dark he gets. And also the soundtrack in here is really good. First off, I think Bells in Notre Dame is a really good opening, and I think Hellfire is probably the best Disney song. Well, Disney villain song out there. And I think Out There by Quasimodo is a really good I Want song. This movie is just really good. I think the animation of Paris keeps up the cinematic scale of the movie. The only thing keeping it a 9 out of 10 is the gargoyles. These characters are comic relief in the movie, and they kind of take away from the dark elements of the movie and are pretty annoying. I would honestly like them in a different movie, but here, I just don't like them. But aside from that, this movie has great animation, characters, and songs. It is a 9 out of 10. The only thing keeping it out of number 2 and number 1 is those dang gargoyles. Number 2, Beauty and the Beast. This is honestly one of my favorite movies of all time. I honestly have no complaints with it. I think everything about it is great. I think Belle is a very good character and probably my favorite Disney princess due to how unique she is. I think the Beast arc of learning to be a human again and how to be a good person is phenomenal. I think a lot of the characters in here are great. I mean, Cogsworth, Spots, and Lumiere are all great in their own right. I mean, Gaston is a very likable jerk in here. It is probably one of my favorite Disney villains. And the animation here is stunning, with some shots in here being art museum worthy. Like, they are great. And I think this story has a timeless message that will live on till time ends, because we will always judge people based on their looks, no matter what time we are in. Also, every song in here is phenomenal, and I can't deny that. And yeah, it's just, what a great movie. The ballroom scene is breathtaking. It is everything about Disney I love just in one scene. Beauty and the Beast is a masterpiece of Disney animation, and it was one of those rare movies that I would give that rare 10 out of 10 to. Wow. A movie in number 2 just won a 10 out of 10. A very special movie coming up would have to do something amazing to surpass that. And yet, it does. Number 1, The Lion King. This is honestly one of my top 5 favorite films of all time. It is so beautiful. The animation here is Disney's best. The characters in here are Disney's best. Simba is a very three-dimensional character who's probably one of the best written characters in cinema due to how three-dimensional he is and how he grows throughout the story. Scar is a great villain because he's a villain you love to hate, especially after he killed Mufasa. And also, Mufasa is a great character. Every character in here is great. Nala, Timon, Pumbaa, Zazu. I love every single one of them. I mean that. And the soundtrack in here is amazing. With every song in here being amazing and just masterful in their own right. And the Circle of Life scene and Simba climbing Pride Rock after he defeats Scar are probably some of my favorite scenes in all of cinema. Yes, I just said that. As you can see, I love this movie very much. I don't even know what to say about it that other people haven't. Because other people love this movie too. If you've seen this movie, you know why it's great. It's one of Disney's best movie and their magnum opus. I can't recommend it enough, and it's one of my favorite movies for a very good reason. So that was my ranking for the Disney Renaissance era. As you can see, this is my favorite Disney era for a very good reason. I really liked most of the films in here and called them some of my favorites. There's only a few in here I didn't like. Next time, stay tuned for a very experimental era in Disney's history. But until then, I'll see you next time.